I will call to order this meeting of the Region 12 Board of Education, March 25th, 2024 to 7:00 p.m. And I will ask our secretary to determine if we have a quorum.
All right, Joe Abdella.
Here.
John Bonito. Greg Kava. Victoria Salem. Stephanie Colnick, I'm here. Angela Macchiarulo. Alex McNaughton.
Here.
Justin Ongley. Here. Jen Cody. Pete Tagley. Not here. Jane Sargent. Mary Weber. Pete's not online, right? Nope. We've got quorum.
Okay. At this time, I will ask whether or not there's any public comment on matters on this evening's agenda. Is there any comment from the public? Football, you want to let him speak? Oh, I think we should let him speak anyway. Yeah. The chairman will exercise his privilege to allow you to speak, notwithstanding the fact that your topic is not on our agenda.
Good evening, Dr. Rodriguez and members of the board. If you don't know me, I'm Ryan Salon. If you do, I'm Ryan Salon. And I'm here speaking again 3 years later because 3 years ago I was fighting for football. And I'm fighting for the same reason here tonight, talking for the same reason, but now I've played football for 2 years here. Had the best 2 years of my life playing for this team. But now we're kind of in a little predicament here. We don't have a conference to play in. We don't know all the details. We don't know all the big facts about it, but all we know is we've been voted out of our conference. And as of right now, we have no conference. So I know whatever I just said is all I know. That's what I've been told, at least by some people. But I'm just asking you guys if you get some details, if you want to get some facts and help us find a conference, because if we don't have a conference, we can't play. And if we can't play, then there's no football. And football's had a tremendous effect on the community, not just Chappaq, all of Region 12. I mean, I just talked to someone and they said that their son wants to play football here, and he's at 8th grader at Chappaq and he loves it. And he wants to come play for us, which I find great. But I mean, there's people in the halls who love it. There's everyone. Everyone loves the team. I hear people talking to me about it. So, I mean, really just, I'm asking you guys to find a way to help us if you can, because it'd be great to play in a conference instead of just not being in a conference and not being able to play. So just hoping everyone could find a way to help us and push us into a new conference or stay in the same one, hopefully. But thank you for everything. Yes.
Ryan, if you could speak a little bit about, you play with Woket Tech, Nanawag, Wamogo, Litchfield, about the different kids you've come in contact with, the diversity, the fact that in most sports, these are your arch rivals, kind of how that has affected you and affected other kids on the team.
Well, I mean, everyone's really come together. You see us in the off season after the basketball games. I go up to players, I go up to fans, and we all hug each other. We talk to each other. Our coaches come to games, and I think it's really brought a bunch of us together, the Berkshire League together, to be with each other, to be friends. Because really, Nanawag and Chappaq were rivals. Not a lot of people from Chappaq, like a lot of people from Nanawag. Now that we play football together, people have realized, okay, we can be friends. Now that we play football with Litchfield, they're like, okay, well, maybe we'll be nice to Litchfield. So I think it's really bringing everyone together, not in that kind of bad way, but I think everyone's really coming together now. We're kind of seeing like, yeah, we play for other schools. We go to other schools. We're rivals on certain nights. We go at it in the playoffs, but once it comes to the football field, we're all together. We're all one.
John.
Is it only Chappaq players who are off?
Everyone.
Everyone except tech schools.
So yes.
Mary.
If you had a choice, would you rather go back on the team that you were, or would you rather us to find a new place for you?
I would go back on the team that we were on. I mean, it's not like the team's just gone. It's not like there's no team. There's still a team
Right.
set in place. We still have the same coaches, same facilities, same players, same roster, just no conference. So we were in the CTC, the Connecticut Tech Conference. And I'm pretty sure right now we're not in it, or there's plans for us to not be in it. And without a conference, you have no schedule. Without a schedule, you have no games.
Okay.
Go ahead, Stephanie.
Thanks so much for coming tonight. I love hearing about how well you've all worked together. I remember you and your coach coming up a year ago and telling us all the positive aspects of the teamwork that you've gone through together. But can you also remind the district, I think you've also had success on the field, like you've had a good record, right?
Yeah.
And
We've actually been a top seed in the Class M and Double M 2 years in a row. We were the number one all throughout the season and then dropped to number 4, sadly, on Thanksgiving this year. But last year, we were the number 2 seed all season long. And we were the number 2 seed going through the playoffs. And combined record of last year and this year, I think it was 19 wins and 3 losses.
and
So
all of that after just 2 years.
just
Yeah,
after 2
right.
years. And
I'm-
I don't think any other school has done that. We had the longest regular season win streak actually of 27 games. So that was, I think, a state record.
We're all really proud of you. That was an incredible accomplishment. Thanks for sharing.
Thanks for coming here and bringing light to the board about the situation. Again, as Ryan stated, we don't know the facts, and I'm wondering, Dr. Rodrigue, if you could possibly speak about what you have found out and what our future looks like, because the team has been told that the Tech League voted against renewing our 2-year contract. And so the players believe that they don't have a home, and they were told that they cannot, if they are allowed to stay in, that they will not be allowed to compete in the states, and they will not be allowed to compete in the weekly player of the weeks.
So I did hear that as well. First of all, Ryan, thank you for coming because I know how passionate you and the whole team is and everyone that supports our team. So Wolcott Tech is the only tech school in that particular league. So that sort of started out being a very complex issue. There's a lot of history because of that, as you know. So I just got off the phone today with members of the CIAC who really have very little oversight as to how the leagues actually run, which was a big surprise to me. And Greg Simon, who's at CIAC, is a close friend. So I had Matt Parachi and I on the phone with him today because I wanted to know what could CIAC do. Now, what I heard was there wasn't a vote yet. There was a vote. Usually you submit a letter to continue and that was what was, because I think the numbers of how many players on Nanawag didn't look right, something like that. And they wanted to make that sure it was accurate. I was told there's going to be another vote in April. So it isn't hopeless, number one. Number two, we're working behind the scenes. I've said I would be willing to draft a letter and have all of the schools in the league sign it with me. I have also reached out to let CIAC know that, we're going to get media attention because this is a huge deal and it's the timing. It's one thing if you said last year, because of there's only one tech school in the league, which is supposed to be 4 tech schools. And so they're looking at it as an imbalance kind of thing. These are the things I'm hearing. So that's what I'm sharing. And I said, that's fine, but we can't be told yesterday that we can't play tomorrow. So that's one of the issues. We will write a letter. We will, I'm going to be talking with the superintendent of Nanawag, hopefully tomorrow. I was talking to Matt Parachi. I'm going to reach out to the superintendent so that we can get all the superintendents on the league to come together and have a meeting and talk about it. So I'll know more after tomorrow. But I did want you to know that we're working hard behind the scenes, first of all, to make sure this is accurate, because we're not getting a lot of details from Wilcott Tech is who hosts us. So I know Matt's been back and forth and there's been very vague details about what's really accurate and what's true. So we have not been officially told that. I want you to know that. Other than the letter that we weren't able to submit, but they're taking another vote in April. So right now it's not hopeless. And there will always be a place you can play if this comes to pass. We just want the timing of it. We don't like the timing of it. We want to make sure that, we're able to put some time and space so that you get to play and not play without being, honored as you should, like every other player in the league.
Yeah,
What I'm hearing is we don't have a reason why they're deciding other than it's considered a tech school and that's like the vague.
I don't have
enough Okay.
details to talk about those here.
And so who makes the decision? It's the ADs of the CIAC
Okay.
of that particular league. So how many are we looking at that are voting? Like how many, so it's coaches or ADs? ADs. So how
My
many,
understanding is there's 8 schools
eight schools?
there where you do have some misinformation. Wilkett Tech is not the only tech school. Abbott Tech, Painter Tech, it's comprised of tech schools.
It's the technical conference.
Right, so
I didn't, you're right. I didn't mean to say it that way. It's all tech. And then there's just some that are not tech. Us, Nanawag. And I think Nanawag has like 30 players,
right, so we were given.
which is
utility-
huge.
You have too many kids. We don't have the most kids, we have the third most kids.
Yeah.
So if you're not kicking out 1 and 2, you can't be going after 3.
Right.
Then we heard, well, it's because you're public. So is every signal technical school. Well, it's because you can recruit, because you have an ag school. We don't have any ag kids on football, neither does Nanawag, neither does Wamogo, to my knowledge. And if anybody can recruit, it's ATI because they have Immaculate and Abbott Tech. So Immaculate can recruit. I think it comes down to, because once you get rid of all of those obstacles, honestly, and I could be 100% wrong, I think it comes down to a 19-1 record over 2 years and a girl coach. That's where I think it comes from,
Uh,
because
So
it
I just wanted
reminds
to
me,
add one thing.
it kind of reminds me of UConn when years ago, they were telling Gino Wariema, you guys are winning everything. You guys need to dumb it down. And Gino said, I'm not doing that. You guys play better. And now guess what? They all play better.
Right.
UConn's fighting. So.
I agree. That came
School,
up
Play better.
right. That came up actually with Immaculate. We're not the only ones that there would be that same issue with. So that wasn't part of the conversation today. So once they go, if this happens to us, then they have to look at all the other. Absolutely. You're 100% right on that. The issue is they do get the authority. They do have the authority
Right.
to do what they're doing if they do it.
Right, but be honest. Be honest. You want to kick us out?
So
But be honest.
So my questions are leading to this. So I'm assuming that there are you're saying 8 athletic directors that vote on this. And so out of that 8 athletic directors, are we saying that because there's 8 teams or 6 teams?
There's 8 teams.
8 teams. And so how many of those teams are male coaches?
All.
So that's what,
We're the only school in the state that has a female coach.
so we're the only,
More than one co-op in our conference. For what
Right.
I know there's 3 co-ops for one.
so I guess from what we're all trying to say is that it would be a shame for them to make a decision that will end up becoming a much bigger decision that will bite them versus it just letting a team out, because you have to be very careful when now you're dealing with taking a team out with the only female coach. So I would just like them to stay on their toes about that.
They also talked about private schools. Isn't Immaculate the only private school out of all those schools? So
how can they say we're a private
No, no,
school?
they say
We're public school, but they're not private either.
Right.
The only private one is Immaculate, so I would think the only one that would be thrown out would be Immaculate.
Well, I am certain that they're not doing this to discriminate against a female coach because they wouldn't want to find themselves on the wrong end of a multi-million-dollar
Thank you.
state and federal sex discrimination case that will bankrupt them, and it would be against not just the schools. It could also be against the athletic directors. So I'm certain individually. So I am certain that they would not want to be discriminating on the basis of sex. But the thing that really bothers me is why would a group of people get together and try to make a hyper-technical decision in order to interfere with opportunities for kids? Did they forget that they're running schools, that this is not the NFL? These are schools, and they need to be making more considered decisions about trying to find ways to make things work. And, I know maybe we're not a technical school, but at least 3 of the schools that play on this team have agri-science academies. And those are, in a way, somewhat similar because they go for a very defined area that leads to careers. That's a direct pathway to careers. And so I really think this decision needs to be looked at carefully by them to not find themselves on the wrong end of this process, because I wouldn't want to be standing up here. The reason I voted for this team is because it's opportunities for kids. And to let kids play a sport like this is very important. And I cannot believe that these people have forgotten that they're educators.
And I want to also touch on what Ryan said. This has made a huge impact on Region 12. It has been such a pleasure to see from the first home game to the last home game, the amount of students and parents and staff members that come to support these kids is amazing. We finally brought football to our district and people are embracing it. It is so much fun. People fight over who's going to wear Ryan's extra jersey in the stands, and the camaraderie, how it's brought different groups from Chippewa together. The baseball team comes out, the soccer team comes out. They all come out to support. How many players from Chippewa? There's only a few, but they all come out to support these 4 or 5 players. And the middle school kids are excited to come up because we offer football. They're excited to come up and play football at our school. So I would hate for this to negatively impact our students. And as you all know, my number 1 priority are the students in our district. And we have taken it to a new level. And I would hate for anything negative to impact our students, our future students, our current students. And that's why we are all so passionate about it. And that's why we wanted to bring it to everyone's attention. And Lori, I can't thank you enough for stepping up to the plate and making that phone call and working with Mr. Parachi and trying to find out what the facts are, because no one has told us. And the families, the players especially, this is a huge disrespect to the players that they are hearing things through the grapevine and no one has told them what's going on because the facts have not been presented accordingly and appropriately. And it's horrible to watch these children struggle on a daily basis, not knowing if they're going to have a football team to play for. So I thank you very much for fighting for our kids, for finding out the facts, and let's hope we can make sure that these kids can continue to play football. Thank you.
Ryan, I want to thank you again for coming tonight. You've been kind of the spokesman for football in this region, and you've played brilliantly. And this is going to be the time for character. This is the time when character has to come to the fore. Let's only hope that the 7 athletic directors in this league demonstrate that same character that you as players have done when you stood up and you stood and attended to kids that were injured on another team and showed the level of character that you have. Hang on to that, because you're going to need it in this fight to get back onto the field. But I'm confident that you'll do well. Thank you. Any other comments? Hang in there, Ryan. We're going to do everything we can. Oh. All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda. There are three sets of minutes on the agenda. The Board of Education meeting of March 11, the public budget hearing of March 11, and the education meeting of March 4. Does anyone wish to take any of these minutes off the consent agenda for the purpose of reviewing them or the purpose of making changes? If not, those three sets of minutes will be deemed adopted. We'll move on to reports and recognition. I've already spoken, so I'm not going to do mine anymore, but go ahead.
Um,
Rodriguez.
Thank you. As I mentioned in my highlights on Sunday, I invited our building principals and Carrie Snowden, our new Director of Teaching, Learning and Assessment, to our CAPS conference that was held in Bristol, Connecticut. And the focus was on transformational instruction, including literacy and the new science of reading standards. We had great conversations on best practices in the classroom, in engaging students in literacy in every classroom. The keynote speakers and both at the beginning and at the end were some of the best around, and we gave great feedback to Fran Rabinowitz and our group for one of the best conferences I think we've all been to. And I think everyone walked away with some really good resources, even model curricula that is now out there from the state that everyone can access. I'm also planning to send out after this evening a communication to all of our staff and families following our discussion this evening on the budget. I hope to highlight some of the most important requests again that we've been discussing throughout this season and mention the referendum date, most important as well, being May 7th, and to get people out to vote. Our administrative team met with a representative from Panorama today. That's the company, and I mentioned this in the Curriculum and Instruction Committee this evening. It's a company who has a long, very reputable history developing school district climate surveys, and that goes out to students and families and staff. We want to put one out, develop it, look at the questions, pick the topics, and they have a whole host of topics that we can utilize. Put the survey together and get it out sometime in May as a baseline. And they have a lot of SEL, social emotional learning questions that we can utilize as well. We have not done this survey in a few years. And this is so important in terms of data points that reflect school community members' perceptions about their experiences here in Region 12. So I'll give you more details as we get closer to that. And we do have a data team that was put together in the district. We're also looking at the data and utilizing that across many disciplines. We also talked about that this evening, using the data warehousing Linkit. We're going to be pulling together members of the Linkit organization to help more training so that we have a pioneer group of staff who can actually hit the ground running with that in the fall. That too will be something that Carrie Snowden will get involved in. Last Wednesday, I mentioned this as well, our agri-science students visited the state capitol and represented the Agri-Science Academy alongside hundreds of other FFA members in Connecticut. During their visit, our students met legislators and the governor, local agricultural business owners, teachers, and other students. And they were featured on a news segment. I hope you had a chance to see the video that I sent along with that. Very cool. They honestly represented us well with very professional, very dignified, and very engaged in being there, really interested, and that was pointed out by many people there. So kudos to them, and it's an exciting day for them. And moving on to personnel, we have some new appointments. Emily Lane, building substitute at Washington Primary. Shannon Rupar, literacy tutor at Booth Free School. A few leaves of absence. Tara Flaherty, math teacher at Chippewa Valley, will be out February 28th through March 18th. Jane Manley, art teacher at all elementary schools, extended her leave through June. David Morgan, PE teacher at all elementary schools from March 4th through April 24th. We've had a couple of resignations and retirements. Jillian Blood, who is the building substitute at Washington Primary, and that's effective February 29th. And Alicia Hines, as many of you know, the world language teacher at Chippewa, and that was effective on March 12th. And that's all I have this evening.
Okay. We'll move on to the, one thing before we move on to the graduate report. I wanted to acknowledge these beautiful thank yous and items that are on the table tonight from the students in Region 12. That's a really wonderful thing. And it's, and your thanks are appreciated. We do this because we love doing it. This is why we get up in the morning. It's your welfare. And so it's so nice to be recognized, but we're in there digging for you every day. So that's where we are. Okay, now we'll move on to the treasury.
Nothing new since last week. I'm afraid I have no report to give.
Okay. We'll move on to committee reports, curriculum and education department.
So we just met with Carrie Snowden through Zoom tonight. It was really sort of informal, just kind of get to know you, hear some of the things that we're interested in looking at. She talked, or Dr. Rodriguez talked about the panorama survey. Excuse me, we talked about the LinkedIn, using those data points to make decisions. And then we sort of talked about some of our goals. Some of the things we want to look at are the elementary school Spanish program. Obviously, the reading program in the schools is huge. And some of the just testing in general and, how we're doing with the results and how we're making sure everyone's doing as well as they can.
Much. Joe, at Advance?
Nothing new to report. Our next meeting is, I believe, next week, April. I don't remember the date. It's next Thursday. Sorry.
F&O, Alex.
We have not had a meeting since last Monday. Our next meeting is on the 8th of April. That is it.
All right, policy committee, I have nothing for you. We haven't met since the last time. Negotiations committee, we have a meeting on the 27th. Council, and we'll start the process of negotiating 3 labor contracts this year. So that's what's up in labor negotiations. Strategic long-range planning, Jen.
Nothing to report.
Okay. We'll move on to old business. Is to consider and if appropriate, appoint a board member to be the board liaison for the education. Tell us about this. I think so. The Education Foundation? No, it's the call.
Hi.
About that.
Yes, so we've been working on forming an education foundation, and we are doing it by converting Chippewa Student Project Foundation into a larger foundation. And there does need to be a liaison from the board on the foundation. So that the people that are the core of the Chippewa Student Project Foundation are ready to start that work at their next meeting. And they would like the board member to start being involved at that time. Currently, their meetings are at 8 a.m. the 3rd Thursday of every month here at Chippewa.
Okay. We'll appoint the board member to the liaison. I'll get back to you on that.
Are you looking for people to volunteer or are you appointing? Just so I'm clear.
Well, I'll appoint someone, but if anyone has a strong interest in it.
I have a strong interest.
Okay.
So the board is in the process of being formed, but the organizational members right now are Daphne Parker, Cornelius Kennedy, Virginia Mavruli, Krista Tendler, and Adam, whose name I can't remember. Hold on.
Okay.
Adam Hughes. So those are the 5 current members of the Chappaqua Student Project Foundation. So what will happen with the Student Project Foundation is it will become a subcommittee of the Education Foundation.
So, yeah, so it's, I know a couple of them names like I'm familiar with, so they're members of the community.
Correct.
Good. All right, so we'll move on to new business. Board member appreciation month.
So I wanted to say on behalf of the students and staff and families in Region 12, I wanted to recognize the outstanding work that you all do as members of the Board of Education. I know how challenging your roles are at times, mainly because you do care so deeply about our district, about our students and our staff, but primarily in the support you always provide us so we can continue to advance the experiences, the opportunities, and the overall quality of education that we offer here in Region 12. Sometimes, in spite of your own lives, your own work, and your own families. So in honor of Board Appreciation Month, the students have made you some wonderful gifts to show you what you mean to everyone in the district. At your seats, you'll find maple syrup from our agri-science students and just so wonderful hand-decorated mugs filled with candies and handmade cards with their own sentiments in it from our elementary students to express their deepest gratitude. So again, thanks to all of you. And thank you on behalf of me for welcoming me as your new interim superintendent. You've been wonderful and it feels good to have you as my.
Quick, comment.
Yes.
One comment, where are the pancakes and waffles? That was my only complaint, and maybe a little butter.
We'll do that next year, Alex.
Okay, all right, we'll move on to item number 2, which is the discussion of the 2024-2025 budget. Is there any further discussion of the budget? Any further comments that anyone has to make? You have met now with all of the boards of finance and select them. Any issues, questions, anything came up that we need to ponder? Okay. All right, good. Then if that's the case, I will entertain a motion to set and approve the school district's budget for the 2024-2025 year as set forth in the superintendent's budget materials that have been presented to the public and to this meeting. Motion? Is there a second? Is that John seconding? Okay, good. Oh, okay. Moved and seconded. Discussion. Yes. We can do a roll call vote. All right. Anything further? Any further discussion? All right, we will proceed to a roll call vote. Does our secretary want to call the roll and our clerk would record the votes?
All right, Joe Abdallah. John Boniuto, Greg Kava,
Aye.
Victoria Salem.
Yes.
Aye. Stephanie Polnick, aye. Angela Maciarulo. Yes. Alex McNaughton.
Yes.
Justin Ongley.
Yes.
Jen Pody. Pete Tagley is not here. Jane Sargent. Mary Weber.
Yes.
Okay. Yep, 10-1-0.
Okay, if that's the case, then the budget has been adopted. And then I would ask for a motion to set the annual district meeting for May 6, 2024 and a possible referendum date for May 7, 2024. The way this works is we have a meeting on May 6th. At that meeting, what we do is we set the district with, basically, we adjourn that meeting to the polls on May 7th for for a vote on the budget. But it's funny, technically, the meeting is to approve the budget, but since the public isn't here, we adjourn it to the polls. And that's what will happen on May 6th for May 7th referendum. Is there a motion to set this? Yes, I'm sorry. Is there a motion? Joe moves, a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion. Just so everyone's aware, once we set this to referendum, we cannot expend any funds to promote the budget. The only thing we can do is to just put out information about the vote, the day to vote, copy of the budget, and that's it. Yeah, we can, I'm sure we can encourage people to vote, but I'd have to check that with council. But maybe we can, but what we can't do is expend money doing anything in the way of advocacy. Individuals can advocate for the budget. You may advocate all you want for or against the budget, but you can't act on behalf of the board. You certainly can't act on behalf of the board and expend any money to do it. So, well, actually, you can expend whatever you want, but the board can't expend it, is what I'm trying to say. So you can say, this is the greatest budget in history, please vote for it. But the board can't do that. Okay, so, any further discussion? All those in favor, please, John, do you want a roll call vote on this too, or? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? All those abstaining? Okay, we have unanimously set the date for May 7th, or May 6th for the annual district meeting and May 7th for possible referendum. Okay. Is there anything further to come before the meeting? If not, if there is no objection, I will declare this meeting adjourned at 7:38 p.m.